Alright everyone, I'm going to show you what I did to replace the front shocks on my 2008 Toyota Tundra. I've got the Haynes manual and looked up the videos online. There wasn't hardly anything online with regard to videos, and the Haynes manual completely forgot to mention a pretty critical step in getting this shock out. So I've got the first one in. It took a fair amount of work, no lie. I'm a weekend warrior, so not a pro mechanic, and got all the tools, got lots of experience with these, but this was definitely a tough one. So one of the key things was, and the Haynes manual forgot to mention, you got to take the spindle off the upper control arm here. So you got to take that nut off, and then you have to use I used a 3-jaw puller to pull it off. And the other thing I was required to do, which I'm not sure if it was necessary, but it was for me, because I just couldn't drop the spindle far enough to pull that shock out. But I actually had to remove the stabilizer bar link right here from the bottom in order to be sure to be able to drop that spindle down. So I'll try and get some video the other side so I can show you a little bit more what I did. Alright, so I've got the puller on here, so we need to pull this upper control arm off, and to do that you just turn clockwise just like you're screwing a screw in to pop that off. You can see that's what happens when you pop it off. Be sure you're wearing your safety glasses. Never know what might come flying. Okay, so one thing I forgot to mention before I popped this, and I was really lucky actually. So this cable right here, I believe is the ABS sensor. I could be wrong. Like I said, I'm not a pro. But when that popped off, this caught it, but I was lucky that it didn't shear it, because all of the weight of this entire spindle was sitting on this. So okay, so I've got the spindle tied up here so that it won't fall, to make sure that this doesn't get sheared and too tight. I'm going to try and take this off with my impact wrench. We'll see if it's got enough torque on it. That's a negatory. So 22 millimeter here. Okay, so I cannot extend the lower control arm past the point where I need to get that shock out. So, as I did with the other side, and I haven't seen this mentioned anywhere else, but I had to remove the stabilizer bar link, which is right here. Okay, so I've removed the stabilizer bar link, so that's, there's nothing holding this up anymore except the steering. But that's flexible. You can see that. I don't know if you can see from this angle, but this, it's just not going to clear. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to loosen the nuts that are holding the top of the shock on, to get a little bit of wiggle room, and do what I did to the other side, which is I had to actually press this up with a jack in order to get it out. So I'll come back when I so I've raised the truck a little bit more to see if that had something to do with it. I didn't think it would, and it didn't. I mean, the issues that basically I can't, I just gotta pop this thing out. So a lot of pro mechanics are probably gonna look at what I'm doing and say, what are you doing? But I'm not a pro mechanic, and so someone's gonna comment on this video and tell me how to do it. That'd be great. So this is what I've had to do. I've actually rigged this hydraulic jack. I've got a little socket in here. You can use any extension in here, but what it's going to do is it's going to push on the bottom of the piston here, the shock, and push it up, and then hopefully I'll be able to push this down, the lower control arm down, and then be able to pop it out. So let's do it. So you can see it slowly coming up. All right, so good thing this held. All right, so I've got it out, and we can go ahead and commence taking this off and then changing out the shock. Okay, I'm not sure if I mentioned this before, but the top shock is held on by 4, I think they're 14mm bolts. I had pre-loosened them to give this a little wiggle room so I could pop it out, but take these 4 bolts off here and the whole thing will come out. Okay, so I've got the shock out. One thing to note is, I didn't mention this before, but you're not going to be able to unless you hold the top here with a wrench, but you do not want to take this nut off without having spring compressors on the spring. One thing to note also is that you'll see on the top it says out right here. You basically, that's facing directly out from the vehicle, and you're going to want that lined up parallel, that arrow parallel with the bottom of this piston here, or this shock, this mount right here. If you don't, it's not going to line up in the mounts in the truck. All right, so let me get the spring compressor on here and show you how I change the shock. All right, so I've got these spring compressors. They're I think they're sometimes called McPherson strut compressors because these are McPherson type struts, and you basically just mount them on 2 sides of the spring here. Takes a little bit of work. Get one side tight. Then I'll grab the other side. One thing to note is you got to get a socket over this end right here, so it's important not to have that too close to the spring, or else your socket is going to get stuck in there. I've had that happen to me several times. Okay, that's pretty tight. Okay, now you just hit it. Okay, so we've got this compressed enough that this is going to be able to remove. You can see the bottom is twisting here, which is exactly what you need. You don't need to compress this all the way down, you just need to compress it enough to get this off. So I'll come back when I start that process. Okay, so I've got the springs compressed. What I do is I put a wrench on the top here. You can see it's cut out so that you can fit a wrench on the top. That keeps the center from spinning while you take this nut off. And it's just precautionary because we've got these spring compressors on, but while I'm doing this, I never ever have this the top of this pointed to anything I want to keep. So you know, you never know what'll happen, and if these spring compressors for some reason failed, this thing would shoot right off, and I imagine it could cause some serious harm. So I've got this pointed away from my body. It's actually pointed towards the back of my truck, so I should probably point it out in space. You just pretty close there. All right, so that nut comes off. Take that off. I guess it's a good idea to keep in mind, you know, which way these go. I could try and keep them in order like that. And this top comes off this way. Got another little Alright, so that's gonna go there, that goes like that. And the whole shock should then come right out. Alright, and let's see what I do with that. So here's the shock I'm going to replace it with. I'm going to go ahead and remove the band that keeps it from expanding. This is the top, as you can see. Here's the bottom. Get this little, I don't know what it's called, little protector. And this is going to expand here any moment. It's still there. It's going already. Alright, and what did I do? Here are the replacement parts that came with the shock. These are KYBs, by the way. So these are slightly different. You can see, sorry, you can see these are slightly different, so you got to keep in mind which one you want to put where. These are also slightly different bushings here. Alright, so if you've got this laid out, you can see which one goes to which. So this one matches that one, and this one matches this one right here. So you can just kind of lay it out. Goes like that. And where are the bushings? This goes like that. Goes on there. This, I got a bushing right here that I need to take out. Let's see, do I have I probably have a screwdriver somewhere here, but there. You can see it's pretty well stuck on there. But this you're going to reuse again, as well as this. Okay? So this bushing that came out, you can see it resembles that one. So you're going to put that just like this. Alright? I'm going to go ahead and put the shock on so that we can get all this going. And one thing to note is you want to make sure that you have this groove here lined up with the bottom of the spring. Okay? So you just do a rough estimation at first, and then you can you know, make sure it's all square later. Alright, so I know I'll put that thing somewhere. There it is. This goes on there, if you recall. This goes on top. I'm gonna go ahead and just throw this bushing on here. This goes on here like, oh no, this goes next. And you note the direction. You can see the holes here where these bolts were lying. So this goes down like this. And you can also see where the spring has made an indentation in the previous one. So you can kind of match it up. Here's the end of the spring, and there's where that end goes in right there. You can see that. Okay, so that just actually kind of clips over nicely. And go ahead and move around so you can see. I'm going to go ahead and tilt this up now so make it a little bit easier. Alright, so we've got this on here. We want to put this down. And it's going to, it'll take just a little bit of effort to get it over the bolt. Now I'm going to go ahead and this is on nicely. I'm looking at it from the top now. I'm going to line up. Put the next bushing on. Put this top plate on here. And loosely put the nut on. Now it's only going to go so far because once it starts catching, you can push this down a little bit. Once it starts catching the bottom of this socket, it's going to start turning that thing, Alright, so one last check. I'm a little bit off. You can see it out is pointing this way, so I want to turn this. I'm going to just like that. Make sure that we're lined up. See, this came out, so I want to I'm gonna try and turn that a little bit. I want that lined up exactly. Right, everything looks good. Yep, everything looks good. So now what do? We do the opposite of what we did before, which is to grab the top of this. And I'm sure somebody has an easier way of doing this. Oh, it's a 17. There's a 17. There it is. Hit the max. One more check. Yes, we are good. So we're gonna get this in here now. All right, so before we throw this in, we got to take the spring compressors off. I wish we could keep them on there. Some of the other vehicles I could keep them on there a while. I actually put it in and made it a little bit easier, but there's no room in here for that, so we'll go ahead and try it this way. All right. Throw some nuts on the top so that that's something holding it up. One thing I forgot to do, one thing I forgot to tell you, the line, this line here, it's holding a lot of tension, and I had to actually, hopefully you can see this, basically this just bends pretty easily here. Be careful. Pop that off. This gives it a little bit more wiggle room here, and I actually cut that too. Okay, I'm hoping you can see this. Gotta be careful of these lines. There we go. Well, this bad boy just does not want to go in. Okay, so I was finally able to get this into there with some pushing down on this. I couldn't do it by myself. I actually had to get my wife to actually just, I mean, it didn't take much effort at all just to move this into place while this was pushed down. So now we've got it in. It's just a matter of now lining up these holes, lining up the hole. All right, you can see, I don't know if you can see that. The hole is mostly aligned. This just needs to come up just a little bit. So you can slide that in there. There it is. All right, so now we've got the lower control arm. By the way, I don't know the names of these parts. I think I know, but I might not even calling these things the right things. I think this is the lower control arm, and I think this is the upper control arm, but I really have no idea, so forgive me if I got the terms wrong. All right, so we're gonna get this on. We gotta tighten the nuts up on the top, and we'll do all 4 of those. They don't go on very tight. They don't need to, they're under compression, but you know, tight enough so the nuts don't rattle loose. All right, and don't forget to put the, oh man, this whole thing came off. Sorry, you're looking all around while I am. Looks like this whole thing came off, so we gotta put it back in. I was not anticipating that. Okay, so in order to get that back on there, we gotta raise now. All right, there we go. Let's check. That looks actually pretty good. We're putting the stabilizer link back on. All right, and so we've got the link lined up here, and where's our hammer? Let's go ahead and see if this bad boy goes on. good enough. I think this is a 14, no, it's a 17. No, it's a 19. There we go. Tighten it up. Put those on, put this on, put these on. We are ready to raise this and put that upper control bar back on and see how far do we have to go. Okay. I'm just gonna jack this up. Oh, sorry guys. I had to adjust the camera a little bit. Alright, so now I've got this. Alright, so I decided to get smart and actually just pull it up with another line. I don't want to raise the vehicle much more because that vehicle's pretty high right now. It's resting on the hydraulic jack. There we go. Alright everyone, I've got this nut back on. I'm gonna go ahead and throw this pin back in. We got to line it up so that the open edges of this nut here are going to allow the pin to go through the hole. Just an FYI, you can see that there. So we stick the pin in. Make sure that edge has caught that edge, and it has. Okay, everything looks good. Now if we haven't done anything wrong, this whole thing should be able to come down. I'm gonna put it back on the stand here on the jackstand. Oh man, it's pretty far up there. Holy moly, way down there. There we go. One last check. Got everything on here. We didn't take anything else off. We got these tightened up. This is good. This is good. This is good. That's it. Nothing left to do. Put the wheel on. Okay, I've got both the tires on. I just wanted to do a quick look here. I just wanted to. I'm overly safety conscious, so I wanted to tell you what I did with the jack stand. Put a couple of center blocks underneath. Those things under compression may or may not hold the weight of the vehicle, but you know, it would help. But I always try and use as much support as I can, including the jack if I don't need it. You know, you never know. And if you have a single point of failure, then you know, you might be under the car. Might be some hurt there. Okay, I'm going to drop this car down and tighten up the nuts, and then I'll show you the tools that I used to do this job. Alright all, probably last part of this video, I'm going to show you the tools I used. I have an air compressor right over here, and just to lay it out, so I had a standard ratchet set. I had a mallet there, a rubber mallet, McPherson strut, compressors. I had a hydraulic jack that actually just came from my car, my other car. So a couple screwdrivers, primarily along the flathead, long, sturdy one, impact wrench, a wrench, crescent wrench. Don't have to have one that size. Pliers to do the different things I needed to do. 3-jaw puller, very important. I think that is a 3-inch short-handled 14mm wrench. Whole slew of metric long-handled wrenches. I highly recommend those. Gloves, sockets, impact sockets, breaker bar, 1/2 inch, helps to get the tight nuts off. Got some loosening agents. I don't know what this one's called. This is called PB penetrating something. Anyway, jack stand. The other one already went in the trash because I showed you something went wrong with it. Floor jack, wheel chocks, and a rope to hold up the spindle at the bottom while you take it off the lower control arm. A lot of patience. This took about an hour and a half per side, maybe an hour 45 with the tires for the front. So about, we'll just call it 4 hours from the front. Took about an hour and a half for the back. So you're probably looking at the whole day to do all of them around. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video.